Chafing Armor Podcast, Episode 26, Bucket and Pail. Welcome back to the Chafing Armor Podcast. I'm your host and lovable Dungeon Master, Michael Corley. With me in this special solo adventure is Lee. Lee, please tell everyone who you are playing.
G'day, I'm Lee. I'm playing Osokai the Shifter Ranger.
Excellent. And we're going to do a special episode to show what happened when Osokai leapt off the pirate ship back onto the main ship. And I want to do just a quick little flashback, because I like to do things as confusing as possible. This would be just a few days into your trip on the vessel. How would you describe Osokai feeling on the open seas?
Osokai prefers the solidity and stability of dry land. Water is good for swimming in sometimes, but traveling by boat is unnatural.
And you did a good job of describing that during the original encounter. And I would like you, as we start here in this little mini flashback, to just roll a Constitution check for me, if you would.
Absolutely. Constitution is good, but not that good. That's a 2. Plus my Constitution is 2, so that's a 4.
Okay. That is definitely not going to do it, because you are not feeling well. This is before you decided to take up in the crow's nest to give yourself a little more air and stability. You turn in your room, grab the bucket nearby, and just vomit up breakfast. It's already not to your liking. Virtually everything on it is massively over-salted so that it will preserve out in the ocean. And it is just even more disgusting as it burns coming up. Give me a quick perception roll.
Okie dokie. That's a 19.
19. So you catch something happening in the corner of your eye. The door to your lodging, which has no lock, creaks open as if something is slowly pushing it open.
Normally, Osokai would probably be a little more careful with something like this happening, but the boat ride and subsequent sickness has made him less inclined to be so. He's pretty cranky at the moment, so he's likely to just get up and go, if you're going to come in, come in.
You hear no response, but the door opens just a slight crack more.
Okay. Osokai's just going to get up and cross the floor to the door and yank it open.
Okay. You look straight ahead and you see absolutely nothing. But as Osokai is a trained warrior and is used to looking this way and that way, you catch motion below you and look down. And there you see Aki, the lizard that you saved from being nailed to a pillar. Its crooked tail has grown back at an awkward angle, and it is looking up with you with 2 bulbous eyes. And it has a look of utter startlement in its eyes. It clearly was very startled by you opening the door. And its mouth opens and something plops to the ground. It is a rat. A very dead rat. And it looks at you, and then it scurries away.
Okay. Which direction does it scurry?
It scurries back towards Morezi's apartment, or little room. And you think you see it dark back in there.
Okay. With slight disgust, Osokai is going to pick up the rat and take it to Morezi's room and pound on the door.
Okay. Morezi opens the door. She is incredibly upset with you waking her, because apparently she was asleep. It's kind of an in-between time where you could be awake or asleep at this time. And it's just basically a, what?
Osokai will, with matching her irritableness, respond with, your pet left breakfast behind.
She looks down. She looks at the rat. She looks up at you. She kind of smiles. Like, she takes the rat. Like, there's no, like, pause or hesitation. She kind of gives it a little sniff. She goes, oh, well, somebody brought you a present. And she throws it to Aki, who looks at it, looks at you, looks at her, and then and eats it up and devours it. And then he continues to stare at you with his giant bulbous eyes.
With a wry smile, Osukai will playfully suggest that perhaps Aki should know better than, or more accurately, Morezi should probably teach Aki not to roam the halls of unknown places at night or early mornings, making strange noises at people's doors. It could find himself in a lot of trouble. And then he will just turn around and walk back to his room.
Okay. And you head back to your room. As you are getting back to your room, you hear a slurping noise coming from your room.
Osukai will mutter to himself, what? Just, why can't people leave me alone? And we'll just, still irritated, but this time a little bit more cautiously, we'll push the door open, and we'll attempt to push the door open in such a way that it doesn't creak.
Okay. You try to stealthily open the door, and I'm not going to even make you roll, because what is happening in here is not interrupted by your door opening regardless. You open the door, and you immediately recognize that this is a supernatural entity. You're not sure what. You don't know if it is a specter, a ghost, a lich, or something, but it immediately registers as such to you. It has the frame of a child, but you are pretty sure this is not a child, and it is greedily slurping up your sick out of the bucket.
Sorry, I need to catch my breath for a second. That's revolting.
That's what I was hoping for, so good.
Oof. Osukai, on the other hand, has seen some stuff in his life. And just kind of grimaces and goes, you could have asked.
The eyes look up at you. They are huge and pale. They remind you of, like, a frog, something like that. It looks at you and just hisses at you, and then, poof, it turns into a kind of vaporous smoke and just whizzes out the porthole to your room, which was closed before, by the way. It is open now. And just whizzes out and is gone. And that's the end of the flashback. And we cut now to the storm shaking, the wind blowing, the fog, the night, and this enormous wave has separated the pirate ship from your ship. And you have realized that someone on the ship likely needs your help. And you vault back to your ship and land with a crash. You actually feel some of the boards crack beneath your giant frame as you land to the boards. And you know that down below, Zuana is down there, and she is not doing well.
Well, Osukai does weigh nearly 300 pounds, so
yes,
from such a large height, the boards are sure to crack. But he is also skilled in tumbling, so it would not be too much of an issue to do so. Actually, not really tumbling, just jumping. He can't tumble. Okay, so I'm going to assume it is a storm, so winds are howling, it's raining, and lightning crashes, and a new mother dies, etc. New mother cries, old mother dies, sorry. Osukai is going to... There's not much I can do on deck. Zoana is below deck. We were on the ship for how many days before this? About a week or so?
Yeah, you were probably on the ship for close to 2 weeks by the time you had the encounter with the pirates. You were roughly halfway across the Sand Swallow Sea, making fairly good time. So it would have been a solid 2 weeks.
And in that 2 weeks, there wasn't a whole lot to do outside of ship stuff. So I would like to assume, and hopefully you'll go with me on this, that Osukai has explored the inside and outside of the ship as much as he possibly can, and that includes much of the hull, if that's possible.
I will absolutely agree with that. Something that we did not really... I expected to get to it, but just the adventure didn't go that way. This ship has a full crew on it. They were all hiding because that's actually why... That was y'all's job, was to protect the ship as you crossed. That's why you only had to pay a little bit to cross instead of an exorbitant amount, is you were basically acting as hired muscle. So when the pirate ship came... they were all like, okay, well, we're all going to go hide now, and you go beat them up. There really wasn't much for you to do. You would do a little bit to help out just out of sheer boredom. But I will absolutely say that you looked at every single nook and cranny of this ship out of just tremendous boredom. Someone like Osokai, who's used to being on the open ranges and traveling dozens of miles in a day, who's now on a tiny little ship, it would have to be maddening.
What are the features of the... I know this ship isn't armed. We covered that in the last episode that I was on. However, it would still have... I'm hoping and assuming it would still have bilge water release.
Yes.
Osokai would like to, rather than take the doorway... Well, he's just come from a pirate lair, or a pirate combat on a previous ship, and Zuana is below decks. The crew does not actually know about Zuana.
Well, they are aware that a wood elf is traveling with y'all, but she is not doing well. You do not like this on this because you are a creature of the land. You like traveling, but as a drow, she is a creature of the earth, and this ship is anathema to her. So it is actually, in a way, harming her spirit just being here. You know, perhaps in years and years of practice, she could come to get used to it. That, in addition to the fact that limiting her sunlight exposure is tricky at best. And while she's been able to figure out different ways to do it, and in fact she has a kind of crude visor that makes it slightly more bearable, she is just all around having a miserable time and is very, very ill.
I'm still not entirely... Osokai will still not be entirely sure that the ship is safe. So, because while the pirates did come in, the sense that Zuana is having some difficulty, plus just relative caution in general, like I said, Osokai would like to make his way to an area where the nearest bilge water release hatch is, and attempt to crawl inside via the hatch.
You are easily able to do that. The only problem is, of course, your enormous size. It's going to be a very tight fit, and your mobility is going to be extremely limited.
Understood. First, of course, Yosuke is going to open the hatch and see if there's any bilge water inside.
There absolutely is. You see a few rats swimming around in it.
That's fair enough. They like to hide in there. So yeah, Osokai will assess whether or not it is safe to enter the tank, the bilge water storage, assuming it's all clear, but for how long we don't know, this is a storm. He will clamber inside and make his way to the interior access hatchway. It is a very tight fit. Osokai is, after many days of exploring, I would hope would know a little bit about how to navigate through and make his way out into the interior of the ship.
You absolutely do so. Where are you trying to head to?
I'm just going to head to the hold for now.
Okay.
At the bottom of the ship, and make my way slowly towards where I last knew Zuana would be.
You make your way to her particular bunk. You do all have individual bunks. This is a fairly large ship. The actual cargo, this is a cargo ship, is mostly below. So you do all have your own spaces. You hear a slurping noise coming from her hold.
Osokai has heard that sound before and gives another grimace and once again attempt to open the door without making a sound. But this time more No, actually, scrap that. Osugai is just going to open the door. There's no point in messing around here. Osugai is on a tossing and rocking ship and is trying desperately to hold down whatever is left in his stomach. He's not in the mood for playing games. So Osugai is just going to open the door and go and say, no, it's just going to open the door and stand there.
So before, two things. One, she has been very, very sick, much like you have been, but more so. So there is a bucket next to her bed. It is mostly full, unfortunately. The creature that you had seen before is not at the bucket. It is hunched over her. Its feet are literally planted on her chest. And both its hands are side to side in sort of a claw-like motion. And the slurping noise is not coming from drinking up sick, but it is making a sound, and you can see the breath coming out of Zuana's mouth. And I'd like you to roll for initiative.
Okie dokie. That's a 20, so 22.
Is it a natural 20?
It is a natural 20.
Wow, that is crazy, because he also got a natural 20. And so you actually go first. I was about to tell you all the things that you don't get to stop, but you do. So go for it. Tell me what you do.
All right. So taking a quick assessment of the situation and knowing that the creature is, or at least experiencing the creature is at least easily distracted. Once again, Osukai will just say, you could have asked. In that moment, will stride forward and pick up the bucket and toss the contents onto the creature.
Now, there are many things that you could have done. Go ahead and give me a roll with your dexterity bonus.
Okie dokie. That is a non-natural 20.
Okay, so you were rather focused on getting in here, finding out what's going on. You grabbed the bucket and you threw it. And in that moment, you really saw the creature up close, because you're only a few feet from it now as you toss the sick onto it. There is a critical difference with this creature now. It has no skin. It is skinless. And it is horrifying looking. And it barely resembles a humanoid. Its hands are clawed. One of its eyes is almost bulging right out of its head. But here's the thing. This kind of creature, there are many legends about it, but one of the ways that you destroy a creature like this is by preventing it from rejoining its skin. And while your actions do not destroy it, it's literally the way you go about it is you literally put something unpleasant on its skin that's off. You put salt, or you put Tabasco, or you put pepper in the skin, and when it tries to put it back on, it can't get back in. Well, this poor Zuana has been vomiting for several days. She's been vomiting this salt-rich food. And so you pretty much just tossed salt sick onto it. And it screams in abject pain and horror. Its skin doesn't actually, or its lack of skin doesn't actually bubble, but you almost feel like it should. And it actually loses its turn, because that is so fundamentally unpleasant, what you just did to it. As you look down, by the way, Zuana is semi-conscious now. She seemed to be almost like in a comatose state, and she's sort of rousing herself back to wakefulness now. And it is your turn again.
Okay. Better out than in, I suppose. Osukai will take advantage of the situation, and continuing to hold the bucket is going to... Actually, he's going to jam the bucket on the creature's head, if possible.
You can certainly try.
I will give that a shot. The dice are being wishy-washy today, it would seem, so let's have a look. That's a 19.
A 19. You absolutely had to do well in order to do that. You do. Again, you're going to find out what this creature is eventually if you have not had some suspicion already. One of this creature's abilities is literally called the Evil Eye. One of the best things you possibly could have done was to jam that on its head. Because guess what? You don't want to get the Evil Eye. And so the creature screams, you do 1d4 points of damage to it, just from the force of pulling it down. I'm not going to allow a damage bonus, but a 1d4 damage if you would roll that.
Okay. That would be... I'm going to roll a d4, obviously. That's a 3.
3 points of damage. So you actually feel the edges of the bucket like jam into its meaty shoulders, and it screams at you. And now it is its turn. As it turns out, it's going to have blinded as it attacks. And so that is very fortunate for you, because one of the rolls was a natural 20, but it has disadvantage. So it rolled a total of 16. Will that beat your armor class?
No.
Good. It's very good that it did not. It is your turn.
Okay. Osukai, something in Osukai's brain twigs and kind of tells him he probably doesn't want to touch this thing. And by all accounts, looking at it covered in sick and uncovered skinless flesh, the idea of touching it is repellent anyway. So Osukai is just going to kick the bucket as hard as he can.
Okay.
Not kick the bucket in the metaphorical sense, hopefully, but in the literal physical sense, yes. That is a natural 20.
So the creature was leaning over on the bed, and so it's somewhat lower down. But even still, this is a pretty impressive feat that you've done. Feat, ha ha ha. And you bring your foot up, and you just kind of do like it's a very utilitarian, you're not a martial artist, but it's a very utilitarian kind of similar to a front kick. And you just hear this gong, and it actually cracks, but it doesn't break, and slams it backwards into the wall. And I want you to roll 1d6 plus your damage bonus.
Okay. That's cocked. Try that again. That's a 6 plus damage bonus of 3. That's a 9.
Okay. You've done 12 points of damage to this creature, and it is trying to get the thing off of its head. Roll here. It cannot do so. It jerks her a few times, and then it will strike out at you again with disadvantage, and unfortunately for it, it actually has a really nice to hit. But with disadvantage, one of the rolls was a 5, and so it is just whoo, whoo, whoo. By the way, its claws are long and sharp, and you do not want anything to do with those. Yeah. Zuana is kind of sitting up on the bed and looking up and just like, what the heck? And it's your turn.
Well, Osukai's claws are also something you don't really want to get in front of. Although he has them put away for now. He's not feeling cocky so much as he feels like he's got this situation not in hand, but something, barring any nasty circumstances or bad luck, he thinks this will end relatively soon. He will... Okay, what is in the room? In Zuana's room now?
It is a very small room. There is a bed. There is a chest for her personal items. And there's a very skinny stand where you would pour water for like washing up. And there's a cracked mirror hanging above that. And that is just about everything in the room. And there's a porthole that is currently open. There is also a porthole that is currently open.
Okay. What about bedclothes?
She's wearing like very simple, like light clothes, like, underclothes. and there's a simple sheet on the bed. It's been quite warm, so there's no need for anything warmer. It's just drenched in sweat, and that all of her other items are in the chest.
Okay. Ozukai is going to... Please tell me I have it. Yes, I do. Ozukai is going to strip the simple sheet off the bed in one smooth motion, attempt to bind this thing while it has the bucket on its head with the sheet.
Okay. You will need to make a successful roll to bind it.
Okie dokie. Can I use the use rope check?
Yes, I will allow that.
Okie dokie. Use rope comes out as a 22.
You grab the sheet from underneath her, and you with your prodigious strength, it's not hard to kind of do a whoop, and she kind of lets out a little cry, and you twirl it a couple of times to get it, into a sort of a rope-like shape, and then fling it around the creature. There's something about the creature, it's pretty sexless, but something tells you it's female. It's wearing some semblance of, like, tattered clothes, even with the lack of skin. But you throw it around and do a quick binding, and it screams and screams. And I'm going to allow it to do one more action before you fully bind it. And it is reaching out its hand, and out of its hand comes crackling a lightning bolt. And you're really, really glad that it's blinded, because that's going to give you quite a bonus to save from it. I'd like you to make a reflex save throw. And I would like you to make it twice.
Okie dokie. First one is 20. Non-natural. My reflex is 7. And... 23.
And I would also like you to roll a percentage die, and you do not want to roll less than 10%. Just saying.
Okay. I rolled an 80.
Very good. That would have meant that it had struck Zuhana. Yes. Instead, it strikes the mirror nearby, rebounds off, and strikes the ceiling, where it crackles and hisses, and several of the boards crack and smoke, but do not actually catch fire. This was a powerful spell, and you don't know much about magic casting, but you know that Lightning Bolt is not something that you really want to catch in the face. You can roll again to fully bind this creature.
Okay. That is a 17.
You've got it like round around like in the most simple type of knot. And what you do is you move in a little bit closer and you kind of loop around one more time, and then you just squeeze. And with your incredible strength, tell the listeners again what your strength is.
My strength is 18.
Yes. You squeeze and you hear it cry and howl and hiss and spit, but its arms are bound to the side. It is furiously trying to get loose, but between the bucket on its head, which honestly was one of the best things you could have possibly done, and its arms now completely bound, it appears to be helpless.
Osuke remembers, however, that the previous encounter with it became smoky and vanished out the porthole, so we'll close the porthole.
Very good. So if you close the porthole, that's going to give you some opportunity for it to escape, because that's going to require one of your hands. So I'll leave it up to you if you want to try for that, or if you want to hope that Zuana is awake enough that you can ask her to do it. I'll leave that up to you. You know that if you let go even with one hand, that it's going to make a break for it. It's going to try to get away.
Yeah. What condition is Zuana in at the moment?
She's awake, and she's looking at everything like, what the hell?
I'm actually going to hope that my bond, I suppose, with Zuana is enough that if I, in a specific tone of voice, bark close the porthole, it's going to snap into her mind and she's just going to do it. So I'm going to try that. I'm going to bark at Zuana. Porthole, close, now.
There is not even the slightest hesitation. She leaps off the bed, and you know that she's not doing well. And probably whatever this thing was doing to her has made it even worse. But she leaps off the bed, slams the porthole, and you hear a click as it she turns the latch to keep it closed. It's not even a question. Those of the drow race know how to follow orders or die.
Osokai will... Actually, I was just going to say thank you.
And she kind of looks at you because she's still getting used to people saying that, but she nods quickly.
Okay, and I am going to indicate to the creature and say, "Dark magics, your call," and give another tug on the sheet with all of my strength.
She nods and she gestures once. You know that she does have spellcasting ability, but you don't actually know. The truth is, you do not know the extent of her abilities at all. You've seen her tangle things up with vines, and you know that she tried to summon a bear once, but that's actually the only magic you've ever seen her do. She gestures once, and she just nods, and she goes, it is not a surprise, but pure evil. And she looks at the ropey muscles that are, literal muscles that are bulging beneath your bedsheet or her bedsheet. She says, "That was very clever, putting the bucket on its head."
Osokai will just nod and go and say, "It didn't like the contents, so I thought it wouldn't like the container even more."
She chuckles. She says, "Well, you're one of the very few people in the whole world to have captured a hag." And that ends Chafing Armor, episode 26. Lee, thank you so much for helping me capture this hag.
Thank you very much for letting me capture the hag.
Cannot describe to you. I have a complicated system for experience points, but let me just say that you kicked everybody well forward by your decision to put the bucket over its head. Of the many, many bad things that a hag can do to you, there is none worse than its evil eye. And so that really changed the nature of the combat. Let me put it that way. So we'll see how things go forward, and when we next meet up, have a wonderful evening.
To you too.
And we will roll with you soon.